Round 3 of the Champions Cup. There's some teams already in the last chance saloon. My name's Mark. Let's talk rugby. Okay, so first up, I'd like to say Happy New Year to everyone. It's the first video for the year. I had a little break over the Christmas. Hope you guys, had a good time, whether you celebrate Christmas or not. Hopefully, some good time with family and stuff like that. For me, it wasn't great, like being away from my own family and stuff. But you still have to get through it, right? And I was working most of it too. But one good positive thing, I got myself a new jersey. So my wife got this for my birthday. Well, my birthday and Christmas, because my birthday's Christmas Eve. But I'm very happy. So last year I got the yellow Ulster jersey, and as soon as this jersey was announced, they started posting pictures of it and stuff. I absolutely knew I wanted it, so I'm really, really happy with what I got. It's one that, as I said, I had my eye on the very moment that they started releasing pictures. And something Ulster have been doing well in the last couple of years is jerseys. A lot of other things not going so great for them, but hopefully they're moving in the right direction overall. And I've worn this, hopefully to give them a bit of luck, because, it feels like, there any chance really of qualifying is probably gone for them. But I want to see them at least, do themselves proud and just have something to build on really for next year. I think that's where Ulster are in this. And there's a couple of other teams kind of in a similar situation. I was talked about last chance saloon in the intro. Any team really that's lost the first two games, they've got to get something this weekend, really a win or to have really any chance of qualifying for the knockout stages. Now, there could be a situation where, something like 8 or 9 points gets you through, but you still got to pick up something this weekend to get there. So, it's going to be a bit of a scramble, I think, for some teams this weekend. And, we do have a massive, massive game as well that we're going to talk about too. But what we're going to do as usual, going to just go through each of the games, talk about how the teams have done so far in the competition, and then who I think is going to win as well. So I'm going to start with the Friday game. It's just the one game on Friday. I think there's there's a game or a couple of games in the Challenge Cup as well. So there are 2 rugby games on Friday night, but in the Champions Cup, just the one. So this first of round 3, Friday the 10th of January, and this is Glasgow Warriors versus Racing 92, and it's at Scotstoun Stadium. It's an 8 o'clock kickoff, and there is coverage on Premier Sport, beIN Sport, Super Sport, and Flow Rugby. So if you got like Now Rugby package or wherever, you'll definitely be able to watch that if you're in Ireland or over in the UK. So how about these two teams in terms of what they've done so far? So start with Glasgow Warriors, home team. Starting off, they beat the Sale Sharks fairly comfortably in Scotstoun in the opening round. Looked really good in that one. Then against Toulon, right, in the second round, 1 point defeat, but a lot of Glasgow fans not too happy with the way they approached it. I think they'll be kicking themselves as well from that one, because there was definitely a win there for the taking. You could see in the second half when they started bringing on, some more frontliners that you think if they had just committed to that game and decided, we're really going to give it a go and we're going to pick the best team that we can, I think the win was definitely there for them, and probably top seeding with it too. And now, I do expect them to qualify for the knockout stages, but it's become more of a struggle, or more effort is required than maybe was necessary, because they could have been qualified at this stage already. From there, again, I do think that they will probably qualify at the moment, just sitting second behind Toulon there at the top of the table. But it is a little bit congested in that pool as well. And, they don't want to have a shock defeat in this one and then really be scrambling in the final round then to qualify. So look at Racing then. Racing kind of similar to them. Good start to the competition and then, not so good in the second round. So they started off, fairly comfortable win over Harlequins for them. And especially given, last year, that was a bit of a ding-dong battle between those two. It looked like Racing had maybe taken a step forward, but then after that, then they go away to Sale Sharks, who, as we talked about, were beaten quite comfortably by Glasgow in the first round, and they're beaten quite comfortably by Sale. So, not brilliant for them in terms of actually taking that step forward. And, there's been all kinds of rumours about, how can I forget the former Leinster, Lancaster, there we go. See, old man brain, but Lancaster, all kinds of rumours about him leaving and that kind of stuff. There were rumours saying like, oh, maybe he's going to Munster. That would be very interesting, I think. I think he'd be great over there. I'd love to see it, even as a Leinster fan. But yeah, so things obviously not quite right there at Racing either. But, as I said, first round, it felt like they took that step forward. And then the second round, it was kind of back to square one for them. And at the moment as well, they're one of 4 teams in the pool that have one win and one loss. The same as Glasgow. But while Glasgow are sitting second on 7 match points, they've only got 4 and they're sitting down in 5th. So at the moment, they're outside of the qualifying spots for the knockout stages. They would, if it ended right now, they would drop down into the Challenge Cup instead. But that's not where their ambitions lie. They want to do well in this competition. That's why they brought in the likes of Lancaster over there. That's why they've brought, superstars there previous as well. Obviously, they want to try and win the top 14 and they want to do well in this competition. But at the moment, it's not happening for them. And obviously, they decided that a change is probably necessary, at least according to the rumours. I don't know whether those have been firmed up yet or not, but certainly that's what the word is coming out of there. But it seems like a bit of a changing situation there too. But onto this game. So Glasgow, other than really that game against Toulon, have looked really good this season. They've been going well in the URC. Some really good wins there, playing some really good rugby as well. That centre partnership doing brilliantly. The maul is such a weapon for them. And it's not just because they have a great maul, it's because they've got great variety to their maul as well, which makes it really hard for other teams to defend. And also, they've got that line out going for them as well. They're winning the line out ball because obviously if a team has that kind of, maul weapon in their armory, if you can take away the line out, then you take it away from them. But the line out is going really well for them too, and it means that they've got that. Then they've got the ability to go out to the backs as well, and they've got kind of a bit of an all-court game going for them. And because of that, I think at home at Scotstoun, that disappointment as well from Toulon there in December. They're going to want to get the win, kind of remove any doubt of them qualifying for the knockout stages, and then go into the final round, potentially still, with a chance to pip Toulon or somebody else to top spot in the pool as well. So, given all of that, I think it's going to be a Warriors win, and I think that they're probably going to be a bonus point win. I think they'll get the 4 tries, and I think Racing won't get within a losing bonus point either. So I think it's probably going to be a 5-0 in terms of match points for them there, unless maybe Racing might get the 4 tries, but if they do that, I think Glasgow will have run up a big score in the game. So that's a prediction for that one. Glasgow win, and then Racing really, still down there towards the tail of the pool. So on to the next one. Then we're into the Saturday games. So this one here, really last chance saloon for the Stormers this year. It feels like, maybe it's already gone for them. Did so well last year as well. Remember, like they beat La Rochelle, at home in the competition, and really kind of announced themselves as a potential threat. And then, they did well in the knockout stages against La Rochelle too. Even though they lost that game, still they showed a bit of a bit of potential there. Like this one, should have said it already, but it's at the DHL Stadium. It's a 1:00 kickoff on Saturday, 11th of January, and it's on all the usual. I think all the games are on the same services. So wherever you watch your Champions Cup rugby, you can catch it on there. But talking about how the teams have gone this year so far. So Stormers started off, losing to Toulon by 10 points, and that was honestly a bit of a shock there, because I thought Stormers, pretty sure that was the home game, right? I was thinking, definitely gonna win their home game, and Toulon might get a losing bonus point or something, but didn't happen. Didn't get a losing bonus point at home either, which would be hugely disappointing. And then decided to send a weakened side then to Harlequins and got absolutely paced in that one by 37 points. So, and now any ambition, they've got to win this, and then they've got to win in the last round as well. So that's why it's last chance saloon for them, because they can't go into next week, or it's next week, right? The 19th or wherever is the next set of games. That weekend, right? 17th, 18th, 19th. So they can't go into next week, on the back of a loss, because then the only thing they're really playing for is that 5th spot potentially to drop into the Challenge Cup. Otherwise, they're out of Europe completely. So it's an absolutely must win for them. And then we look at Sale. Then Sale, as we said already, well beaten by Glasgow in the first round, but then they bounced back and they beat Racing, in the second round quite comfortably themselves. And because of that, they find themselves in 4th place at the moment, and they're kind of duking it out with, I'd say at the moment it's kind of between them, Quins and Racing, those 3 for 2 spots. That's how it feels at the minute. And, looking at this, given how bad the Stormers have been, your instinct is to say it's going to be a Sale win. And if Sale win that, I think then they probably have taken one of those 2 spots, because they'll have had a win on the road, and then at home, then they'll be confident to pick up any kind of point or 2 that they need. Obviously, we'll be looking for a win in the final round as well, but they'll feel fairly confident of getting what they need anyway to qualify. But having said all that, Stormers, they're a team that I really admire. They did so well coming to the URC, won the inaugural one, got to the final the year after, and then got to the playoffs as well last year. But in their URC journey, it's kind of been a little bit downhill for them, and they're struggling in the URC this season as well. And you just wonder, do they have a big performance in them? And they're too good. Well, you say this about teams, so you say they're too good, but I just have the feeling that the squad is too good. It's not just the Springboks that are in there. It's the guys that maybe people from other leagues, from that watch the Premiership, or that watch top 14 or wherever, never get to see, and they don't know who these guys are. But I've seen these guys running around in the URC for the last 3 seasons, and there's a lot of quality in that Stormers squad, not just the first 15. And because of that, I feel like pride is at stake for them. I still think it's a very outside bet for them to qualify at all into knockout stages. But I think in this game, I think they're going to pull off a win. So I'm going to go for a Stormers win in that one. Next then, we have another game, Saturday 11th of January 2025. And it is the 3:15 kickoff at Sandy Park. And it's Exeter Chiefs versus Bordeaux Begla. So you've got two teams who, in the last couple of seasons were maybe surprise packages in this tournament. Like Exeter Chiefs, getting themselves to a semi-final 2 years ago where, they absolutely dug in all the way, like in terms of had to go to like extra time in one game, came back with winning with the final score, etc., and really did so well. Then they completely changed their squad, and then they did all right last year as well. And I was kind of surprised that they got as far as they did last year, given that they just completely revamped the whole squad, like all those quality, experienced players leaving, but they still manage it. But then this season feels like the effect of that upheaval has really come home to roost for them. And then Bordeaux last year, real surprise package in the pool stages, and then get into knockout stages, and then they lose. You think that they're going to make a semi-final, but they lose. It was the Quins, right? 42-41 or something like that. Like 1 point difference between them. And yeah, so like again, Exeter, I think, last chance saloon for them, but geez, what a team to have to play with that final chance to potentially qualify for them. But if we look at how the team's gone so far, so Exeter, first of all, the Sharks beat them by 18 points, and the Sharks, again, like not Sale Sharks, the Hollywood Bet Sharks, they're the South African Sharks. For me, they're the Sharks because I'm a URC fan, right? So Sale or Sale, if you know what I mean. But yeah, lost to the Sharks, who haven't been brilliant either, because they did the same thing as Stormers, right? Picked not a great team, and got kind of punished for it as well after a decent opening win. But then after that one, then just got absolutely destroyed by Toulouse, who've been scoring points for fun. And Bordeaux, in the same way, have been doing the same thing, right? So Bordeaux started off, 14-point win against Leicester, but they scored whatever 40-odd points in that game anyway, and then they just absolutely destroyed Ulster, 60-odd whatever to, wasn't it? Yeah, it was something like that. No, they beat them by 20-odd points. Let me just check what the actual score was, because I know Ulster got beaten 60-odd points by Toulouse, and then it was 40 points, right, against Bordeaux, but it felt like it could have been another kind of 60-point mauling, but Ulster like conceding 100 points, I think, between those two games, something like that. But yeah, comfortable wins over both Leicester and Ulster for them. Ulster not as big a surprise, but because Ulster really have been poor this season. Hopefully, again, they get a bit of good luck from the jersey. But yeah, like, if only for the fact that they're in the same pool as Toulouse, you'd be looking at Bordeaux and saying, okay, they're going to be one of the top seeds going in to the knockout stages. And it's still not settled between them, because both of them have 10 points. So, they've obviously got to pile on a few more points. And looking at, Exeter, there, who then in fifth place with no points and only off the bottom because Ulster have been so bad. Bordeaux have to be thinking, this is going, like, we've got to get out there and we've got to absolutely destroy these guys. Now, I think Exeter I think they maybe got their first win of the season in the round that just happened in the Premiership, so they'll be buoyed a little bit from it. But it's a case of, sometimes in rugby it can happen where just something clicks and team is completely transformed. We'll see whether that's going to happen in this one, but my prediction is Bordeaux to win and to win comfortably in that one. Okay, so on to the next one, which is Hollywood Bet Sharks versus Toulouse. So it is on Saturday again. It's 3:15 kickoff, and it's at Kings Park. So you've got the Sharks. Basically, you've got the two European champions from last year. So you've got the Sharks who won the Challenge Cup, and then Toulouse who won the big one, who won the Champions Cup. So if the Sharks ever needed a kind of an indication or something to show them what the step up is between those two competitions, this game is it. Like, Toulouse absolutely on fire. Easily, I think, although Bordeaux looked great, still feels like Toulouse are the best team in this competition this year at the minute. Now, we've seen before, you can look great in the pools, but if we don't do in the knockout stages, then it doesn't matter. But Toulouse have been there, done that. They won the competition last year, and they look even better this year as well. And if we look at, again, how they've gone so far, Sharks, as we said, good opener against the Chiefs, winning by 18 points, but then sent the weakened team up to Leicester and got destroyed by nearly 40 points difference to them. So, very strange, especially when you consider last year that they prioritized the Challenge Cup, and it paid dividends because they were the first South African team to win a European trophy, and nobody can take that away from them now. But I would have thought that this year that hunger would be there to, okay, we've won the Challenge Cup, now let's try and win the Champions Cup. So, excuse me. So I don't know what the reasoning was. I know that it was coming into the Christmas period where they had big derbies in South Africa in the URC, but still it didn't really sit right with me, and I said it at the time as well. And I say it about any team, it doesn't matter whether it's my own team, Leinster, because Leinster have done it as well, where they in the URC have sent weakened teams down to South Africa. Is that if you send a weakened team and you get absolutely destroyed, you absolutely deserve that, and there's no sympathy for you at all. And it's the same thing here with this. And whether the teams that are doing it are from the URC or from South Africa or English or French or Irish or wherever, it doesn't matter. The same, for me, the same thing applies. And now they're taking on the 6 times champions, the absolute kings of Europe. Beat Ulster by 40 points in the first round, and then beat Exeter by 43 in the second round. And looking at this, they're probably thinking, okay, Sharks, if Sharks aren't on it, Toulouse could easily do the same to them as well. And, at home, Sharks absolutely won't want that to happen to them. I think, therefore, it's going to be a closer game, but I still have to back. I'm going to be in terms of backing, I mean, who's going to win, but who I'm cheering for is different. So I'm going to back Toulouse to win, but I'm going to absolutely be cheering for the Sharks, because you gotta back your URC teams in terms of support at least, but you've got to be realistic as well in terms of who you think is going to win. So I think it's going to be a Toulouse win, even though I'm going to be happy if the Sharks do actually win it. Okay, so next one then we have Munster versus Saracens. This is a 5:30 kickoff on Saturday, and it's on it's in Thomond Park. It's also, other than being on all the normal ones as well, for anyone watching in Ireland, it's on RTE as well, so you can catch that live. It's great to have some Champions Cup on terrestrial TV here in Ireland, and it's a kind of a blast from the past, really, right? Two teams that would have been kind of vying for finals and semi-finals and stuff like that. Previously, both kind of dropped a bit from there, although Munster a little bit more than Saracens in terms of performances in this particular competition, and Munster, lots of people there as well. With the departure of not just the head coach, but one of the other coaches as well gone, and then you're wondering what's actually going to happen with Munster going forward, and what are they going to do now with the rest of this tournament in terms of performance and how that's going to be affected and stuff like that. And the fact that Graham Rowntree left so unceremoniously as well was very strange, and not sure exactly what happened there, because normally we're unfortunately we see more departures mid-season, but generally in rugby, even if it's announced, the coach will leave at the end of the season, and so I don't know what happened there, but I hoping that Munster can kind of dig themselves out from there. But against the Saracens team, who although they're not quite, at least in the last few years, haven't been quite that top table, are still a decent side, and kind of in the Premiership as well. You see now they're beginning to come into a bit of form. They come into form at the beginning of this competition as well, and maybe we're going to see them kind of get up there. Maybe not quite at that level, certainly not at Toulouse level, but you don't necessarily have to be at their level to end up actually beating them, because if you can impose your game on a team like that and kind of almost drag them down to your level, right, you can still beat them. And this Saracens team, I think, is a team certainly with the ability to do that. Munster, I'm not so sure about. But look at how they've done so far. So Munster started off, they beat Stade Francais by 26 points. The big thing for me out of that one was how much they struggled when Stade Francais went down to 13 men, and they weren't able to pile on the extra points in that one. And then when we looked then, going away to Castre, they lost by 2 points there, and in that one again, Munster aren't, at the moment at least, this current team aren't able to kind of impose themselves on the opposition, as much as we've seen them in the past. They don't control games as much as they used to. They kind of play in pockets. They'll have a decent period and they might get a score, or we saw them against Castre, and recently in the league as well against Leinster, where even when they have periods where they have chances, they're not actually taking the chances. The defense is on top. Excuse me. And they're finding it harder to break teams down. And obviously the loss of Abrams for the next few months took part of that kind of cutting edge away from them as well. But in recent games in the URC, we're seeing like that they're beginning to get into gear a little bit. Not as much as Saracens have been in the Premiership, but there is something coming from Munster in terms of improvement there. They're looking more dangerous. They still have to cut out errors in the game. They still have to be more more clinical when they get chances as well. But you can see that there is improvement there. They do have players, on the injury front as well. They've had a long injury list, but some of them are starting to come back now, which will hopefully help them, in the end of the pool stages. But we look at Saracens. Then Saracens beat Bulls by 22 points at the start, and then they were able to then beat Stade Francais away from home as well in the second round. So really good start for them. And looking at the pool table, like they've only got Northampton ahead of them in the pool. Munster actually right behind them. So a win for Munster in this one, and these two teams switch places. And it's one good thing, I guess, about this format is that you can end up with these kind of switches happening mid-pool, compared to the old format where you might have two teams that would kind of be vying at the top of the pool, in the old kind of four team scenario, where once you got to kind of 2 rounds from the end, you would have maybe two teams vying at the top, and it felt more exciting because there was jeopardy there. But there is excitement in this format as well, in terms of that kind of mid-table scramble that happens, especially in round 3, can throw up some surprises. And in this one, form says that Saracens really should win this, especially Champions Cup form. But I'm going to go for a Munster win. I'm going to back the URC team and the Irish team as well to do it. It's a big occasion, and Munster, although they've been hit and miss, especially this season, generally they can rise to the occasion on big games like this. And this feels like a big game historically, and also in the context of this year's competition. So I'm going to go for a Munster win in that one. Okay, on to the next one then. It is another team in the last chance saloon, Stade Francais versus Northampton Saints. So this one, 5:30 kickoff, is at the Stade Jean Boyne, and I guess the difference between Stade Francais and a lot of the other teams is you wonder whether they care all that much about whether they're going to go out or not. So that kind of even though they're at home, doesn't necessarily mean that they're going to give them an edge in terms of winning. Like first round as we talked about was that loss to Munster when they went down to 13, then losing to Saracens at home by 11 points. So they've already lost to an English team in this pool this year. And then Northampton, they started off beat Castre by 30 points to start, and then they beat the Bulls by 9 points. So that was pretty sure that was away from home, right? And Bulls, picked a decent side for that too, but still weren't able to come out with the win. So that was a very good win for Northampton. And you have to think as well with Northampton, last year in that game against Leinster in the semi-final, they were done. They were dead and buried, and then they just clawed their way back into it. They showed some brilliant heart and courage to be able to get themselves back within a chance of winning. Didn't pull it off in the end, but still really good from them. And then they went on to lift the Premiership title after that as well. Now this year, not going as well in the Premiership, but they've done, they're performing in this competition, and compare them to Stade Francais, and there's only one team really that you've got to back to win in this, and I think it's going to be Northampton. And depending on if Munster beat Saracens, then Northampton could have the pool actually wrapped up, probably needing maybe a point or something in the final round or something like that. But they'd be odds-on favourites, I think, to win the pool if Munster can beat Saracens for them. So this one, I think it's fairly straightforward in terms of in terms of who's going to win it. It's definitely going to be a Saints win. Okay, on to the next one, and it's Leicester Tigers versus Ulster. So this one, 8:00 kickoff, and it's at Welford Road, although it's like Mattioli Woods, Welford Road, because everything has to be sponsored now, but it's Welford Road, right? So interesting one here. Ulster, obviously, I got the support from them with the jersey. Definitely in last chance saloon for them. You know, and honestly, it's very hard to see them lifting themselves to get up. Like they did get themselves a win in the URC against Connacht, but that's against the Connacht side who are up and down themselves. So I don't know how much we can read into that, but you know, this Ulster team, you know, they are kind of on a journey, and there is you see parts of improvement, and then you know you feel like they definitely need another season. You know, with Richie Murphy there, because you can see players he's bringing in and stuff like that is slowly coming together this year, but this season feels like it's preparation for next season to have a proper tilt at competitions. And given that, you know, and we look at how the teams have done so far. So Leicester, you know, first of all, lost to Bordeaux, but they still got like a losing bonus point out there, I'm pretty sure. You know, or not a losing bonus point. They got the 4-try bonus point, right? Yeah, because they lost by 14 points, so they got the 4 tries that they needed for the bonus point, and then they beat, you know, handily beat like a weakened Sharks team as well. And something I always say about games like that is people will say, oh, well, it was a weakened Sharks team, so therefore you know you can't say that they're playing well if they did that. Well, first of all, you can only beat like who's put out on the field against you. You don't pick the opposition's team for them. And number two is confidence is confidence. You know what I mean? So if somebody got in for a try or a couple of tries or made a break or the scrum went well or the line-out went well, that confidence is still there in the team. You know, and it means that performance then in the next game is going to be affected by that as well. You know, and that's the thing. That's why for Ulster, I really wanted to see them getting a performance and some kind of results this year in this competition, even if you know they're going to end up being eliminated. It's just that confidence that will give to that squad of players. But you know, we look at Ulster, like confidence has to be very low in this. Like lost by 40 points to Toulouse, then against, you know, Bordeaux looked a bit better in the first half of that game, but then in the second half, then Bordeaux just kind of let loose and you know went on to win 40 points to 19. You know, so although it wasn't a 60-point drubbing that they got against Toulouse, it was still, you know, big disparity between the two teams as well. So, you know, Ulster, I'm absolutely going to be cheering them on, and I'm going to be wearing the jersey as well, either this one or the yellow one, for that game. But in terms of predictions, I think it's going to be a Tigers win. I absolutely hope I'm completely wrong with it, but I think it's going to be a Tigers win, and that a win there, given like that Exeter and Ulster both have 0 points. If Leicester win that game, they're through to the knockout stages. You know, they're not going to get overhauled in the final round. Then, so that's another kind of incentive for them, you know, to go out and do the business in that game as well. And if they can get the bonus point, even any, you know, outside chance of Exeter pipping them to a place would be completely eliminated as well. So yeah, going to go for a Leicester win for that, but going to be cheering for Ulster. Okay, on to the next one then, and that is Castre Olympique versus Vodacom Bulls. So Bulls, another team in last chance saloon, but you know, I haven't seen any indications of if they're going to do the same thing again or do the same thing that the other South African teams have done and send a weakened side, because Bulls have actually been picking strong sides, even though it hasn't really helped them. But yeah, hopefully, because last year they did it in a quarter final, right? And it didn't sit well with people. But hopefully they pick a team, that they feel is going to win the game. Because, although Bulls at the moment, another team sitting on 0 match points, there is a chance there for them in that pool to qualify, because Castre are basically their direct rivals at the minute for the 4th spot to qualify. So if they can win this game, suddenly they're in the driving seat in terms of qualification over Castre, because again, they've got Stade Francais in the pool who have looked totally disinterested and probably will finish bottom of the pool unless the Bulls end up losing all their games. I think Stade Francais will finish bottom of the pool. So the Bulls really win this game, and then the final game then is going to be who will it be? It'll be Stade Francais, right? Because they've already played Saracens and they've already played the Saints, I think. So it'll be Stade Francais in the final game at home, and you feel like, okay, if they've got a win from that, and then a win will absolutely confirm the qualification, then there's got to be huge motivation for them in this game, and hopefully that kind of affects who they decide is going to travel to the game as well. But looking at the teams in terms of their performance, so Castre 30-point loss to Northampton Saints in the opening round, then beat Munster by 2 points. A game where Munster, again, another team kind of kicking themselves that they could have had a win in France, but just weren't able to do it. Like at times Castre were pretty good in that game, and between themselves and Stade Francais, there's certainly Castre have more motivation to try and qualify than Stade have shown. But then the Bulls lost away to Saracens by 22 points in the opening round, and then lost at home by 9 points to Northampton. So it's about time they got a win on the board. Hopefully if they pick a strong, so my prediction here is based on the Bulls picking a strong side, because if they do what the other South African teams did, then it would completely change it. But my prediction, strong Bulls side, I think they're going to win and then set themselves up for that game against Stade in the final round to just dot the I's, cross the T's for their qualification then. So gonna go for a Bulls win in that. But if they pick a weak side and they get trashed, as I said, nobody else to blame. Okay, on to the next one then. It is RC Toulon versus Harlequins. So this one is at the it's a 1 o'clock kickoff, on Sunday, first of the Sunday games, and it's at the Stade Félix Mayol. And this is, I think it's going to be an interesting one, because Toulon basically, if they win this, it feels like they've got the top spot in that pool wrapped up, just because that head-to-head that they had with Glasgow felt like these are the two best teams in the pool, or certainly look like the two best teams in the pool. Whoever wins, it felt like they were going to go on to win the pool. Not necessarily going to be true, but that was certainly the feeling that I got. So Toulon started off, went down to South Africa, beat the Storms by 10 points. Really good, not just performance, but result for them as well. I think that kind of built confidence for them. And then from there, playing Glasgow kind of started with a little bit of a weakened side, a lot of the kind of big names on the bench, and Toulon in control of the game. Second half, then Glasgow brought on that bench, started to come back at them, but Toulon were able to do enough to make sure that they got that victory, even only by 1 point. It doesn't matter. It means that they are, they have the edge in the pool at the minute. They are kind of, in terms of pool leaders, the one with the least amount of points. They've only got 8 points. And if you look at all the other pools, like first and second place in every other pool has either 10 or 9 points. So, 8 points in any other pool would see them in third place. But in this one, they're in, on the top. Glasgow there in second, just 1 point behind with 7. But again, if Toulon can win this, and they'd be looking to win it with a bonus point, and they still have that, and Glasgow then, whatever happens to them, they don't get a bonus point or whatever, then potentially Toulon have the pool wrapped up then, because they would have a 6 point gap or wherever it was, or it would be 2 or 3 points or something, and then they'd know at the end, then they wouldn't necessarily have to be chasing points. Maybe a draws aren't that common, so probably a win or pick up 2 losing bonus point, and try bonus point or something to clinch it. But this isn't going to be a walkover for them either. Like Quins, I feel like this season, certainly not as good as last season. Last season, it felt like they went into games thinking, okay, we're just gonna attack, and you can definitely score points against us, but we're going to score more against you. And we saw them do that, on a few occasions, especially famously against Bordeaux in that 42-41 game. But this year, it feels like kind of the same attitude is there, but maybe the ability to open teams up isn't there. And that's made it a little bit more difficult for them. And a team like Toulon against them, Quins are going to give them chances. Toulon probably take those chances, but crucially, the fact that Toulon haven't been able to get 4 tries in any of their other games means that Quins, have that kind of, that kind of, what do they call it? Like the slugger's chance or wherever it is, like, some with just one big knockout punch in boxing, kind of feels like that for Quins, right? That they can have a purple patch where they can score a couple of tries and get themselves back into a game or get themselves ahead in a game. And with Toulon not, winning by huge margins, as I said, 10 points, and then just 1 point. 1 point against Glasgow, and then you look at Quins, like lost to Racing in the opening round. They were poor in that game, and then they again weakened Stormers team, but they beat them handily by nearly 40 points. So, and again, that confidence they get from that is going to carry on into this. I know there has been like Premiership game in between, but it's still going to be there and kind of memory banks for them. And they're going to have a go at Toulon in this game. And, when I looked at this first, I thought, okay, it's Toulon. The hard game is done. They beat Glasgow. And now they just have to manage the rest of the pool to make sure that they finish top. Although it's still going to be a bit dicey because of the fact that they're not getting bonus point wins. But they're still in with that opportunity. But the more I think about this game, the more I think Quins could cause a bit of a shock, and maybe even get in there in amongst Toulon and Glasgow and kind of vie for the top spot, because of all the pools, it's certainly the most open of them. You've only got Toulon have won both of the games so far, and then you have 4 other teams on 1 win each as well, which means it feels like it's all to play for, and Quins are going to feel that as well over there. So it's a very important thing for Toulon that that they kind of establish a lead, not necessarily early on, because you do see games like this where Quins maybe score in the first couple of minutes and then it's over to Toulon. Kind of don't panic, just get yourselves back, on terms, and then try and take a lead into half time. Then try and kind of, as best they can, make it so that any tries that Quins are scoring in the second half are only reducing their lead rather than kind of coming back and getting, because that's where it gets very dicey for them, right? If Quins are scoring tries to go ahead by a couple of points and Toulon have to respond, that's where it can really be on a knife edge for them as well. My prediction is going to be a Toulon win, but the more I'm thinking about this game, the more I actually want to watch it, because I think it's going to be a kind of a ding-dong battle between the two of them. But yeah, I'm going to go for a Toulon win in that one. And then on to the game that I think is the big game of the weekend. I think most people would think this as well. 3:15 kickoff in the Stade Marcel de Flandre, and it is La Rochelle versus Leinster. So La Rochelle, they won this competition 2 seasons ago and this season before, beating Leinster in both of those finals. Leinster got a measure of revenge last year when, exact same scenario here. They beat them in the pool stages and then went on to beat them in the knockout stage as well, and beat them quite comfortably, but that felt like it was kind of Leinster's peak last season. But for this one, La Rochelle maybe not at the same level as they were last year, but Leinster as well, even though Leinster are like top of the URC, they've won all 11 games, this season, 9 in the URC, 2 in the Champions Cup, but you still feel like they're not at, there's something a little bit missing with them. Obviously a lot of struggles with the line out, that's been well publicised. Definitely got to fix that, especially against this La Rochelle team. And then things like, maul defence hasn't been brilliant. Again, not a great thing to be worrying about when you're going up against La Rochelle. Starting to click a little bit in the backs. And then obviously, the recruitment that they did as well in the summer. The two big names are RG Snyman, who has been really good for them. And then also, you got Barrett there as well, who's just recently come in the backs and really has kind of just add a little bit more, another dimension there. Even though Leinster always have good backs, but the backs are misfiring a little bit earlier on in the season. Feels like they're getting a little bit smoother now. But for me, the big recruitment for them this season has been Slimani. They're at tight head, especially when you think that Furlong has been out recently as well. It just takes, the pressure off Clarkson in terms of, having to start in these big games and having huge pressure on him. He can still be kind of managed, in his transition, to kind of be a more regular starter and stuff like that, especially in big games as well. And Slimani, he had a bit of a, bit of a slow start with Leinster, really, but has really come on now. It feels like he's settled in, and Leinster. I said it before as well in one of my URC reviews, is that it feels like Leinster are on the cusp of something, but I still can't figure out whether it's going to be like crashing and burning, like in the knockout stages of this competition, or whether it's going to be that they're going to break that drought this season and they're going to lift the trophy. But it feels like there's something different this season compared to the last few seasons. I think this game is going to kind of show us what that is. I'm still not sure myself exactly what it is, but I'm excited to see it. I'm hoping I'm going to be pleasantly surprised rather than looking at it aghast as they're getting absolutely dismantled by La Rochelle. But like, two fantastic teams, and on their day, we've seen it. Either team has the ability to dominate the other team, and then they also both have the ability to look like they're out and they're beaten, and to be able to come back as well. So I think this has all of the ingredients for just another classic clash between these two, and I think it's going to be fantastic in terms of how they've done so far in the competition. So La Rochelle, again, not playing great, but managed to go over to Bath and win by 4 points. Even though Bath started coming back at them, they were able to hold them off. And then after that, a comfortable win against Bristol, who had had a torrid time so far in this competition this year. Leinster then started out with a comfortable win against Bristol, although they in that game they played in patches. They didn't really hit top gear all that much. They still did enough to win. And then after that, against Clermont, and sorry, just go back to the Bristol one as well. It was only like a 15-minute period or something where Leinster turned on and scored like 4 tries or something. But then against Clermont, kind of again stuttered a little bit in that one, and the first time in I don't know how many years they didn't get like a bonus point at home, and again just kind of speaks to that whole thing of certainly something different from them this year, but whether it's good or bad, we're not quite sure yet. Looking at this one, always I know it, and I always say I always have a bias towards Leinster because they're my team, and looking at this, given how close these two teams are, I really should back La Rochelle for the win, home advantage. But the fact that Leinster went there and did it last year, and then on paper they should be a better team given the players that they added from last year, hasn't quite worked out so far, I feel, in terms of performance. Certainly results have been good, but performances haven't quite been there. But maybe this is going to be where we start seeing them turning up a bit more. So I'm going to go against my head and go with my heart in this one. I'm going to back a Leinster win. Okay, on to the next one, which is the second last game of the round, I think. Yeah. So Bristol Bears versus Benetton. 3:15 kickoff on Sunday. It's at Ashton Gate. And Bristol, last chance saloon for them. Benetton with a chance to qualify for the knockout stages, which for them is going to be brilliant because they want to be kind of consistently getting out of their pool and continue that journey that they've had over the last few seasons of just incremental improvement. Excuse me. Now, this season has been anything but improvement for them at all. Like, they've gone backwards a bit. But if they can still come out with something out of this, that could be completely different for them, right? But if we look at how the teams have gone so far, so Bristol, 23-point defeat to Leinster in the opening round, and Leinster basically, as I said, played for about 15 minutes and just completely destroyed them, and then defensively controlled them very well too. And that's the thing. It feels like for Bristol in the Premiership they were going really well. They're kind of stuttered now in the Premiership as well, I've noticed, but they were going really well, and then they go in against a team like Leinster and it's a step up, and they just can't make it. Then after that, the worst two teams really in the pool for them to play, like La Rochelle after that 28 point defeat. So they've already gotten the worst of it out of the way, at least. And now, potentially, win this game. And, they've got the likes of Benetton, Bath, and potentially Clermont as well to target to potentially turn a disastrous first 2 rounds into an actual qualification in the final 2 rounds. So that's got to something that's going to motivate them, something exciting for Benetton. Then they started out 20 points to nil. I'm pretty sure they got beaten by 28 points, but I'm pretty sure it's 28-0 against Clermont in the opening game. Clermont looking really good in that one, and then they bounced back. Then 1 point win against Bath. Bath did send a weakened team over, and again they got what they deserved out of the game. And Bath really should be coming into this weekend looking to actually confirm the qualification, whereas instead of that, they're sitting in 5th place on 2 points, just above Bristol there at the bottom. So, Benetton have, a serious chance in this one. If they win this game, they're pretty much qualified, I'd say, because you look at it like Clermont are playing Bristol in the other game that we're going to talk about in a minute. So both of them can't win this round. So it means that if Benetton win, they're still in the top 4, and depending on how results go, they're either going to be in 3rd or 4th place. And then you're going to have, you're going to have Bath, who would be out of it in terms of at least being able to pip Benetton to a place. Now, they could still pip somebody else, depending on, again, how results go. But, Benetton would be looking, fairly good going into a home game in the final round in terms of qualification. Bristol, they've got it all to do. Again, it's last chance saloon for them. They've got to win this week, and then they've got to win next week as well. And they haven't really looked like doing that. Now, again, Benetton have been pretty poor this season, and Bristol previously had been flying in the Premiership, kind of on a bit of a downward trajectory at the minute. So maybe these two teams are going to kind of cross in terms of Benetton on an upswing and Bristol on a downswing, and it's a kind of a tough one to pick. I know I should I'm looking at my Super Brew picks, and I know in terms of getting points on the board for me, I should back a Bristol win in that one. But I'm going to go for my URC team again. I'm going to go for Benetton to pull off the win in that one and to basically get themselves into the next round. Okay, so on to then the final game of this round. So this one is a 5:30 kickoff. It's at the Rec, and again, it's on Sunday. It's Bath versus Clermont Auvergne. So again, Bath in last chance saloon, only themselves to blame really for sending that weekend side over to Treviso, and again, they got what they deserved out of it, and now they've got themselves in a really tough position. And this is a must-win game for them. And then against Clermont, who, always a team that I admired because they've always been a team that have taken Europe seriously. And, they don't prioritize the top 14 over European competition. They try and compete on both fronts, but they're a team you can see that have that kind of love for Europe. They're kind of similar to like a Munster, where and kind of more lately La Rochelle over in France as well, where the fans and everyone around the club is on board with the idea of the Champions Cup is something that they want to win, and they got close back in the day a few times, never quite did it, but there's still that kind of romantic notions about it, and that kind of love of the competition hasn't gone away for them. And they're gonna take this game seriously as well. They're not going to be like other French teams where you're getting towards the end of the pool stages and it's kind of time to decide whether you want to continue in this competition or focus on the top 14. A lot of other French teams who aren't Clermont, La Rochelle, or Toulouse may have sent a weakened side over for this game. I don't think Clermont will do that. I think it's going to be like a really good side to descend. They're going to Bath as well, who again, like Bristol, were flying high at the top of the league and then come into this competition, and that form just didn't transfer over into this. If we look at how the teams went, so again, Bath beaten by 4 points by La Rochelle, which is not a terrible thing. La Rochelle are a fantastic team, but La Rochelle kind of had the game won, and then Bath came back at them. So it wasn't the case of nearly winning, if you know what I mean. It was kind of they came back, but then La Rochelle were able to kind of hold them away. And then that 1 point defeat away to Benetton as well, that they should have taken the game seriously. They should have had the win on the board, and then this game would have taken on a whole different complexion for them. And then Clermont started out again 28 points to 0 win against Benetton, which again made that Benetton win over Bath even more shocking, because Clermont beat them so comfortably in the first round. And then after that, then against Leinster, only lost by 8 points over in Dublin. So that was a decent performance from them. Leinster had enough to kind of stretch out and get the win in the end, but I think Clermont would have taken heart from that, and they'd be feeling like, well, if we could go away to Leinster and be that close to them, we can go to Bath and we can get something out of the game. And I think that's going to be their mindset for that. And at the minute, it's La Rochelle and Leinster leading the way, and then Clermont and Benetton coming next. So potentially in this pool, if results go the right way, you could basically have all 4 qualifying spots filled this weekend. Because if both Bath and Bristol lose, then there's going to be like a 7 points or more gap between them and the other teams. So there's going to be no chance for either of those teams then to qualify. But I guess in both of their favours is the fact that they're playing at home this weekend as well. So it's kind of up to them to avoid that scenario there. But for me, Bath at home, but Clermont take this competition seriously. So I'm backing a lot of away teams, I'm noticing, but I'm going to go for a Clermont win in that one. I think they'll clinch their qualification because of it. And sadly for Bath, then if it did go that way, they would probably be out of the competition. Other than maybe Bristol kind of doing them a favour by winning and then putting it or leaving it so that they're within a few points of them and Benetton for the final round. But yeah, so that's our look ahead to this weekend's games. As the week goes on, I might do some more in terms of just looking at some of the individual games, especially maybe La Rochelle, Leinster, or maybe do previews of those, as long as the teams come out early enough. If the team comes out in time for me to kind of get a video together, do a little bit of research, etc., go down through the teams, I'll do that. Otherwise, we'll be back then with kind of match reports from the weekend. I'm hoping to cover, the Glasgow game is on the Friday. So, I'd certainly hope to be covering that first up. And then into the Saturday games, then it depends on how my plans are. But, I'd look to cover probably 2 of those games. Certainly the Munster game will be one. And then, one of the earlier games, whether that's going to be, the Stormers game or the Toulouse game, I'm not sure. Probably won't be Exeter, Bordeaux, simply because there aren't any URC teams in there. And it's on at the same time as the Sharks Toulouse game. So if I have to pick, I'm going to pick that one. Then in terms of, the later games, like we got Leicester versus Ulster, I might be able to cover that one as well. I certainly will be watching that one. It's just whether kind of that late at night, I want to be doing a video after the game as well. We'll have to see on that one. So it means that I won't be covering the Castre Bulls game because I won't be watching that one live. And for these ones, I always try and watch the games live, or at least as live. And when it's a packed schedule like this, it's very hard to actually go back and watch a game because you're already, it was the next day, you're already looking forward to the live games that are coming up. Then on the Sunday, definitely going to be covering La Rochelle Leinster, and we might cover one of the other games after that. Toulon Harlequins earlier on in the day. I'm probably definitely going to watch the game, but it's whether, again, it's one of these ones where, do I want to watch the game and cover it? Because that changes your viewing experience. Anyone who does kind of stuff will tell you, because you've got to be writing notes all the time. So I'm not sure whether I just want to watch that one as just an enjoyable rugby game or whether I want to cover it or not. I'll have to make the decision at the time. And then the later games, then I'm not sure about there's only really one later game because Bristol Benetton is at the same time as La Rochelle Leinster. So the Bath Clermont game, I'll have to see, because that's kind of end of the weekend, going to be getting ready for work again on Monday, so I'll have to see that. So we'll try and cover as many as we can anyway. I'm definitely going to watch as many as I can over the weekend, and then, as I said, it's kind of that decision of whether I want to it's almost, do I want to enjoy the game, or do I want to kind of enjoy the game but be stressed about getting everything done as well. But we will be covering probably 3 or 4 games, I would say, this weekend. Okay, so I prattled on long enough. You let me know your thoughts down in the comments.